Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. As everyone knows, this is the anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's Tirabhava, his entering into the spiritual world. And on this day we sing some Parshada Bhagavad Viraha Janita Vilapa by Srila Narottam Das Thakur from his Parthana. English translation is lamentation due to separation from the Lord and his associates. So please forgive my singing. Ye anilo prema dana karuna prachur Ye anilo prema dana karuna prachur Eno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Eno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kahamora Swarupa Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kaviraj Kahamora Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kaviraj Eka kale kota gela gora nataraj Eka kale kota gela gora nataraj Pashane kutibo mata anile pashibo Pashani kutibo mata anile pashibo Koranga gunera nidhi kota kele pabo Koranga gunera nidhi kota kele pabo Se saba sangira sange ye koi lo vilas Se saba sangira sange ye koi lo vilas Se sangana paya kande narotamo das Se sangana paya kande narotamo das Srila Prabhupada ki. He who brought the treasure, divine love, who was filled with compassion and mercy. Where is such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where's Sanatan? Where's Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where's Krishna Das, Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Narottam Das Thakur ki. Thank you. So, it's a little difficult to comprehend the mood, the bhava of the disappearance anniversaries of our spiritual masters, of Srila Prabhupada, the previous acharyas. In one poem that Srila Prabhupada wrote in Vrindavan, he said, "Where is my mother and father to be found? Where are all my relatives?" He said, "They're simply a list of names now. They've disappeared like bubbles or foam in the ocean waves. Where are they?" And I remember what how many days ago was it, Dravida? when Vasudev Ghosh Thakur's disappearance day was? I thought so. 2 days ago we heard it was his disappearance day. But for us, for most all of us, basically it was just like a name in one ear and out the other. Who the heck's Vasudev Ghosh? The fact that he has the name Das Thakur should indicate this is somebody special. Thakur is a name for Krishna, actually, Thakurji. And the devotees, just like sometimes they're called Bhagavan, Srinarda, or so Vrindavan Das Thakur or Vasudev Ghosh Thakur, these are all shining moons. These are parishads. These are devotees who delivered countless living entities from this ocean of repeated birth and death, being fully empowered by Lord Chaitanya. So the appearance day and the disappearance days of the spiritual master, it's right there on the little newsletter that we put out, saying are both equally auspicious, that the devotees celebrate both. It's easy to understand how we can become excited and celebrate the appearance of a pure devotee of the Lord, especially one who descends from the spiritual world. That's not every day. This is incredible. So very joyous occasion. But someone dear to me said it's a little difficult for me to understand celebrating the disappearance. Seems like it's a very sad event, and in fact it is a very sad event. If you don't have something, you don't know what it feels like to lose it. I gave the example the other day, those of us who have the iPhones, the Androids, whatever, our smartphones, when you lose it or think you've lost it, it's a panic. And when you actually lose it, oh my God. Or when your credit card's been stolen. Or Srila Prabhupada would use the example of losing your entire wealth. A wealthy man who lost everything in the stock market. People were jumping out of windows of skyscraper buildings. Their lives were ruined. So they felt. So, what to speak of? Unless one has love for the spiritual master, one will not cry tears of sadness for the loss. What you don't have, difficult to understand what it means to lose it. So we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm not going to do a lot of speaking subjectively, my own perspective on this festival. I'm going to read and share with you some words of Srila Prabhupada, some of which I don't think some of you will have heard before. And I usually appreciate when people speak from the heart rather than reading. But I think it'll be apropos that I do like that. So before we say another word, let's do our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarnam. How's it go? Om Paramadam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Om Tat Sat. So we have a verse on the board. This is from Paranjan Becomes a Woman in His Next Life. It's the canto we've been studying. We've just jumped ahead a few chapters. Chapter 28, and it's verse number 47. Now, fourth canto. Atmanam Sochati Dinam Abandum Viklavashrabi Stanavashishya Vipane Susvaram Paruroda Swasa Atmanam Sochiti Dinam Abandum Viklavashrabi Stanavasischa Vipane Shushvaram Parurodasa Atmanam Sochiti Dinam Abundum Viklavashrabi Stanavasischa Vipane Shushvaram Prarurodasa Manam Sochiti Dinam Abandum Vikavashabi Atmanam Sochati Dinam Abandum Viklavashrubi Stanam Asishya Vipane Surusvaram Prarudodivsa. Can't do much worse than that. You should try. Practice. Abandum Viklavashrabi Stanavasisya Vipane Shushvaram Pururodasa Atmanam, about herself. Sochati, lamenting. Dinam, wretched. Abandum, without a friend. Viklava, broken-hearted. Ashrabi, by tears. Stanau, her breast. Asistya, wedding. Vipane, in the forest. Sasvaram, loudly. Paruroda, began to cry. Sa, she. So the context is that Vaidarbhi has just lost her husband, who she's faithfully served for many years in the forest. He was a great sage, and she assisted him in his devotional service to Krishna. It's just him and her. And now he's left her. He's left this world. And this verse says, being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears which soaked her breast, and crying very loudly. Please repeat. Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears which soaked her breast, and crying very loudly. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple of the king. Thus, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciples should cry exactly as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. However, the disciple and the spiritual master are never separated. I'll read that again. However, the disciple and the spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of vani, or words. Physical presence is called vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. So this has been 42 years, if I'm not mistaken, since Srila Prabhupada left this world. And this is an event that at the time, to give you some context, something that none of us thought would happen. Even when Srila Prabhupada came to Vrindavan earlier in the year, I'm not exactly sure, it was like springtime, it wasn't too hot yet, if memory serves me right, but I remember being shocked at seeing him. I'd seen him in 76 in Rath Yatra in New York City, and he was not completely healthy. He was not as healthy as he had been when I'd seen him previously in Dallas and San Francisco. But he had a cough, he was spitting up phlegm, he was not completely healthy. But when I saw him for the first time being brought from Rishikesh and saw how his bodily frame had deteriorated, it was a real slap in the face. It was really, oh my goodness, he's sick. But even though he sat down in his front room with us and he said, I was in Rishikesh, I'm paraphrasing, but I thought that very soon I could die. And so I wanted to come here to Vrindavan. If death takes place, let it take place here in Vrindavan. And that was a bigger wake-up call than even seeing his emaciated face and body. Srila Prabhupada died? Impossible. Part of that is the bewilderment of us conditioned souls. Yudhishthira was asked many questions by, at the time he didn't know, Yamaraj. Took place in Vrindavan, actually. I didn't know that till this year. There's a kund there where he was questioned by Yamaraj, disguised, I forget, what was it, like a Rakshasa? A disembodied voice. But one of the questions that we all know that he was asked, what's the most wonderful thing? And he said that, and the correct answer was given, that even though we see people dying every day, we don't think it's going to happen to us. Now that's the illusion of bodily identification, especially in youth. But Srila Prabhupada, even though when he arrived in America, if it was 65, 96, 4, 60, 70 years old basically, coming to America, no one saw him or thought of him as an old man. We couldn't keep up with his pace. I got to go on one morning walk and I couldn't hardly keep up. His walking, I had to basically sprint to keep up. He had the energy of a young man. More energy than I did as a young man. Not sleeping. 2, 3, 4 hours max a night so he could get up and give us these Bhaktivedanta purports, which he said would be the law books for mankind in this Kali Yuga. Tirelessly pushing himself 24/7, always remembering Krishna and always engaging in a way to please him. How do you please Krishna? By following the instructions, strictly following the instructions of the spiritual master. So, he embodies that principle to perfection. As he states in Vyavisayatmika Buddhir Ekaha Kurunandana, purport, Bhagavad Gita, quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we should accept the words of the spiritual master as our life and soul. It's going to be touched on in another verse, a couple ahead of us here. But Srila Prabhupada, from 1922, from the day he met his spiritual master and accepted him as such within his heart, he always remembered the instruction his spiritual master gave him. You're an intelligent young man. You should spread the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the English-speaking people. He always meditated on that. And even though when it was time to write a biography for Srila Prabhupada after he had left us, Satsrup Das Goswami was given the wonderful service. He executed it so nicely. He actually had advice from somebody dear to Srila Prabhupada, dear to our movement, and a member of another branch, disciple of his sannyas guru. Actually, when the biography of the spiritual master is given, generally you don't discuss his household life, the household years. Like, do any of you know anything about Gorkashore Das Babaji's household years? Years before he was a Babaji, took Babaji Vesh? He was a grain merchant. We have one or two lines we can say about it. But it's not considered that he fully is manifesting his mission as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But for Srila Prabhupada, as Satsrup Maharaj so nicely said, his entire life was a life of preparation. He shared with us, I can't remember a time when, there isn't a time that I can think of that I didn't remember Krishna. He revealed one time in intimacy with the disciple, he said, first time I saw Krishna was when he was a very young child, the age of which we'd be throwing him out of the temple when they make some little noise or something during a class. He was having darshan of Krishna. So everything he did in his entire life is worth studying and imbibing, trying to understand how we could follow the example of. None of us, none of his disciples our followers can imitate him, but to follow the example as he wanted. So his leaving this world was no different. We hear in the 8th chapter how one's supposed to remember Krishna at the time of death, and he tells Arjuna, don't worry, you're a devotee. You can leave in darkness, you can leave in light, there's different auspicious times, inauspicious, but don't worry. You're my devotee. And Prabhupada showed us. Some of his disciples have likewise shown a slightly different example. I don't want to leave this world in Vrindavan. Bhaktitirtha Swami said, I want to leave here in Gita Nagari. Because I want devotees to understand, you don't have to leave this world in the Dham. It's not that that's a prerequisite for going back home, back to Godhead. The prerequisite is becoming a sincere and serious disciple, a bona fide disciple of a bona fide spiritual master. And as I discuss the topic of the spiritual master, please understand this refers to not simply the Diksha Guru. It also applies to the Siksha Gurus. Guru is Guru, and everyone is his disciple, whether they accept it or not. Srila Prabhupada wrote in the Universal Teacher, some have come to understand and others have not yet. So we're all devotees. And anyone who represents Krishna purely, he's Guru. She's Guru. And we're meant to understand how they live their lives. The life of a pure devotee is an open book. That's the whole point. They're the personification of the teachings of Krishna and the scripture and the disciplic succession, previous acharyas. So, I'm going to read one more, I think, verse and purport, and then go into Prabhupada's poetry. This is text 48. O best of kings, she's addressing her husband. Please, get up, get up. Just see this world surrounded by water, infested with rogues and so-called kings. This world is very much afraid, and it's your duty to protect her. Purport. Whenever an acharya comes following the superior orders of the Supreme Personality Godhead, or his representative, he establishes the principles of religion as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita. Religion means abiding by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Religious principles begin from the time one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the Acharya's duty to spread a bona fide religious system, induce everyone to bow down before the Supreme Lord. One who executes the religious principles by rendering devotional service, specifically the 9 items, like hearing, chanting, remembering, unfortunately, very unfortunately, when the acharya disappears, rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so-called swamis, yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers, and so on. Actually, human life is meant for executing the orders of the Supreme Lord, and this is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:34. Manmanabhava madbhakta majjajimam namaskuru mamai vaishyasi yuktaiva atmanam matparayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, Krishna says. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you'll come to me. End quote. The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all times, to become his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord, and to bow down before him. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Supreme Lord, establishes these principles. But when he disappears, things once again become disordered. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. At the present moment, practically the entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness, these words are so much more relevant today than even when they were spoken by Srila Prabhupada. The present moment, practically the entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement has started to save the world from irreligious principles. Everyone should cooperate with this movement in order to bring about actual peace and happiness in the world. Srila Prabhupada, I heard him personally say, my spiritual master, he was disgusted with the majority of his disciples when he left this world, and that's why he left early. He could have, should have stayed longer, but he chose not to. Such a heavy statement. He said, I, on the other hand, am very happy with you, with my disciples. And to say that he loved us very much, or that he loves you very much, is an understatement. He loves everybody, but those who reciprocated with him, yayatam mam prapadyante tam tataiva bhajamiham, anyone who accepts the mercy, which means his instructions that he gives, the holy names that he gives, anyone who embraces him to their heart, to the best of their ability, chants and follows those instructions, then they get the mercy proportionate to their surrender. So his disciples did incredible things. We take it for granted, come every morning to the temple here. You sleep, eat, do services in this temple. Kind of sometimes we take it for granted. A lot of devotees have sacrificed to make this a reality. as you continue in their footsteps, trying to carry on best you can. And Srila Prabhupada, Giriraj Swami relates it. Also, he asked other disciples in intimacy. Srila Prabhupada, he had great concerns for this movement. He asked Giriraj Das Brahmachari, do you think the movement will carry on? Yes, Srila Prabhupada, if we chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regular principles. No, Srila Prabhupada said. And I believe I'm getting it correctly. If there's good management and intelligence, this movement will carry on. Now it's very interesting, because the gift of this movement is the pure devotional service of the Lord. Focus overwhelmingly and primarily in the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And there will always be a pure devotee on the planet. Just as long as the universe is manifest, there will be a sun to give life to the living entities on different planets. Krishna never completely abandons the sons and daughters who have abandoned him. So one who's sincere can always take to Krishna consciousness and can even receive the gift of pure unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Certainly within this movement, with all its faults and shortcomings. When we say movement, it means people. It also means teachings. So in terms of teaching, the movement, the institution is completely non-different from Srila Prabhupada. But when we speak of people, many of us fall very short at times in measuring up to the expectations of Srila Prabhupada. And in that way we can say, despite its many faults, there's always pure association in the movement. Anybody who wants Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate. You want his mercy, he will give you the association of pure devotees. We just have to want it, and then he reciprocates. But in terms of the institution, which is the instrument, the instruction of his spiritual master, the example set by his own spiritual master, to cover the world in Krishna consciousness, you need a movement, an institution. Although we say, Prabhupada said about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by himself he could have converted the entire world to Krishna consciousness. And that's a fact, as Srila Prabhupada could. But they don't think that way, nor is that the way in which their Leela manifests. They mercifully engage those who need the service to help them to spread Krishna consciousness. And they see such disciples and followers as their wards, that they are given the service of helping, nurturing, instructing, guiding, engaging in Krishna's service. Srila Prabhupada saw his disciples as having been sent by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his own spiritual master. And so he was very happy in 12 years to have fulfilled the prediction that an astrologer made. He opened 108 temples and he spread God consciousness, Krishna consciousness throughout the world. To the English-speaking people, Malecha Desh, the land of sin, godlessness. As he said when he stood in the harbor looking out at the bleak skyline, why have you brought me here? How will they accept your message? They're so addicted, so attached to sinful life, as if that's the norm. So everyone who helps Srila Prabhupada up to this day and in the future, he's very much grateful and feels indebted. You help me execute the service given to me by my spiritual master. And that gratitude is our priceless asset. If we've won any favor from the spiritual master, our lives are most fortunate. And we can continue to make them more fortunate if we continue to surrender and try our best to assist Srila Prabhupada in this international society for Krishna consciousness. But he had his concerns. Definitely, that's the love of a parent for their children. Concern for the service that it be done nicely, that his spiritual master wanted. Because in reality, the Param Vaishnavas, they're not satisfied till everyone becomes Krishna conscious. There's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur singing how when the holy names of the Lord are resounding through the entire universe, at that time, the pure devotees dance in ecstasy. They don't think small. They don't want to see anyone suffering. They want us all to come back home. And so, on the appearance day, this is interesting when you hear this poem by Srila Prabhupada written in Vrindavan. On the appearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which we said is glorious, which is a cause for celebration. Listen to the mood of Srila Prabhupada on this day. He said, on this day, O my master. This, by the way, is, where did I put it? Is entitled Falguna Krishna Panchami. On this day, O Master, I made a cry of grief. I was not able to tolerate the absence of my Guru. On this auspicious day, I've come with this offering just to worship you, remembering your lotus feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's judgment is that renunciation is most important. Not only that, but such knowledge of renunciation must be delivered to every conditioned being. The beginner in devotional service has no ability to solve this dilemma. But you are a Mahabhagavad. You have given us direction. One bewildered by ignorance, what kind of a renunciate can he be? He'll only be a Falgul Vairagi, renouncing externally. Renunciation is actually the result of real spiritual emotion. Without such feeling, it's simply known as show bottle. But there is another show bottle for the purpose of preaching. That's the Lord's sannyas, by which the Mayavadis are defeated. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is beyond Varna ashram. It's Bhagavad Dharma, for putting an end to all cheating processes of religion. Performing dry renunciation, there can be no real preaching. Therefore, Yukta Vairagya is given as the highest essential understanding. That sannyas which I have given you, he's quoting his own spiritual master, that sannyas which I have given you is for preaching and devotion. The faithless sense enjoyers are unable to understand this. That was the first Vaishtya. This is the second. Generally, the sannyasis renounce everything and go and stay in the mountain caves. But you, O Master, keep your sannyasis in mansions of marble. To see a sense enjoyer is just like drinking poison. But you, O my Master, go far and near, even abroad, to give them your darshan. Mlechas and yavanas are forbidden to enter the Hindu temples. But you, my Lord, make them chairmen and sit them in the assembly of devotees. Hindus are not allowed to cross the ocean, but you send your devotees overseas to preach. In the cities of Kali Yuga, the instructions of bona fide spiritual preceptors are forbidden. Still, you remain there in any way possible. The devotees want to hide in a secluded place to perform their bhajan. You, however, do not accept this in your judgment. Whenever there's an increase in population, there in that place, preaching work is to be found. In London, you wanted a student hostel. You explained that it must be very first class. In the land of barbarians, a student hostel for preaching Hari Katha, Krishna Katha, who can understand the significance of these things? To resolve all the apparently contradictory statements is not the play of some incompetent fool. Third Vaishya. If everyone simply sat down together and considered these things, what nice preaching there could be. What is your order also? That everyone coming together should merge in your message and preach it to the world. If everyone just initiates, then there will only be a contradictory result. As long as it goes on, there will only be failure. Now, even my God brothers, he's speaking now to his God brothers. Now, even my God brothers, you return here to the order of our Master, and together we engage in his puja. But simply a festival of flowers and fruits does not constitute worship. The one who serves the message of the Guru really worships him. The service of the message is the real meaning of the Vedas. Don't be proud, brothers. Come back to this. Kalidas Nag, parentheses, he was a learned man who was defeated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and later became his disciple. Kalidas Nag, that master said in public forum one day that Kali's mission was to kill the entire world while the essential meaning of Lord Chaitanya's message was kept locked up in a cage. Oh, shame, my dear brothers, aren't you embarrassed? In the manner of businessmen, you increase your disciples. Our master said to preach. Let the neophytes stay in the temples and ring the bells. Fourth, Vasistya. All these things are not our spiritual master's preaching methods. These are all the things done by the caste Goswamis. But just take a look at the terrible situation that has arisen. Everyone's become a sense enjoyer and has given up preaching. The temples, they've also begun to lock the doors. Preach this Bhagavad Dharma. Don't hesitate. Within this world, there's another world whose sound is the unequaled penetrating force. The preaching that the mullah, or Muslim priest, only goes as far as the mosque and no further. It should be put to an end today. From the seas, across the earth, penetrate the universal shell, come together and preach this Krishna consciousness. Then our Master's service will be in proper order. Make your promise today. Give up all your politics and diplomacy. Everyone, come together on this very day and make your valued comment. The 5 of you get together and decide what should be done. You've become renouncers, brothers. So renounce everything. But if you also renounce the order of the spiritual master, then what kind of renunciation is that? The one who renounces the Guru's order, Guru Tyagi, and the one who tries to enjoy the assets of his spiritual master, Guru Bhogi, are two kinds of useless persons. First, become a servant of your spiritual master, Guru Sevi, and then you will understand things clearly. Fifth, Vasistya. If there's only one Supreme Lord, then a true sadhu, if his faith increases, he gives up the desire for profit, distinction, and adoration in the material world. Your goal, brother, is the Father's sense gratification. This meaningful statement was spoken by Srila Prabhupada himself. Give up your wealth for preaching. Sit down together and make some special judgment. The Supreme Lord himself says that everything is mine. Don't protest. Just unite and preach. Srila Prabhupada gave this final message himself. Take great care to follow that completely in all respects. Otherwise your sannyas will be wasted and useless. O saintly ones, be careful. Afterwards you will regret. So what is the difficulty for all of us to come together in this way? And why do all these things even have to be said to you? Give up your stubbornness. There's no time. Come, all my brothers, on this auspicious, holy occasion. When will that day come? When there'll be a temple established in every house in every corner of the world. When the big court judge will be a Gaudiya Vaishnava with tilak beautifully decorating his forehead. 6 Vasistya. A Vaishnava winning votes will be elected president of the land and preaching will spread everywhere. The demons simply plunder the Lord's well. The hapless population cries, "Oh, oh," in distress. The demons want so many plans just to cheat the people. They see wheat flour at 32 rupees a mound. It's misprinted. Thank you. They sell wheat flour. So that's much higher than what it had been years before, and it's much higher now. Will opening a factory fill a hungry man's belly? Being oppressed by starvation, they will eat grass and mango pits. Wearing a two-piece string, a man's called a Brahmin. Wearing a saffron cloth, he's become a sannyasi. The householders beg from the sannyasis, and why not? The sannyasis have tens of millions of rupees in the bank. As the days pass, the influence of Kali Yuga increases, and the poor are crying in distress. 10,000 cows are killed daily, and the nation's expert leaders are all eating untouchable foodstuffs. Much higher number now. People of muddy intelligence increase day by day. A man and his wife separate on a mere word. Everyone has become a witch by the influence of this age. Everyone is unhappy due to the absence of the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Seventh Vashishtya. The Vaishnavas are famous as Paradukaduki. This fame will increase as the preaching increases. If eternally pure devotional service to Krishna is awakened in everyone, then Kali will flee, screaming of his own accord. Praninan Upakarya. Do work for the benefit of all living beings. This is Mahaprabhu's teachings. This is the storehouse of happiness in this life and the next. So much work has fallen into your hands, so gather together and do it. Vasudev Dutt said to the Lord, paying his obeisances, save all the living beings in the material world. Give all their sins and suffering to me, who am the lowest of all. In this way, all the suffering and miseries of the fallen will end. He was the best of Vaishnavas, Paradukaduki. He knows that there's not real happiness in gratifying the senses. And what kind of mercy can the non-Vaishnavas give? They simply make offenses by their Daridra Narayan philosophy. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is scientific and authorized. Without their mercy, this world is simply insurmountable Maya. If there is a kingdom of Vishnu and Vaishnavas on the surface of the earth, then the world will be happy. So say all the great sages and rishis. Eighth Vashishtya. Why is everyone crying for Ram Raja? The only way it can be had is if there's a Vishnu-centered kingdom. Lord Krishna enthroned King Yudhisthira. Then the whole world was rich and fortunate due to the qualities of a Vaishnava. The streams, rivers, trees, and fields, and mountains, all full of fruits and flowers. The milk-laden cows were floating in abundant milk. The bird, beasts, and lower creatures were all non-envious. Material life in the Vaishnava kingdom was regulated and perfect. All immersed in bliss, sing the glories of Krishna. The hearts of Vaishnavas dance in ecstasy to see this. The entire world is filled with the use of material objects without a trace of devotion to the Lord. Still, they're searching after peace. Preach Krishna consciousness. Fulfill their desires. Today, my brothers, get to this task. Save the battered souls by your preaching. Srila Prabhupada, please be merciful today. This time, have compassion. You're not a conditioned soul of this material world. Whatever independence we have, let it be cast to the waters. The lowly Abai offers his presentation today. So we get a sense of this mood of his separation from his spiritual master. But the pain, although was partially due to he couldn't approach his spiritual master and sit at his feet and listen to him, or that when he chanted japa on the balcony of his home in Mayapur, that he couldn't go right up and chant with him. Fellow godbrothers thought, you're pretty bold. fools rush in where angels dare not tread. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very merciful to Srila Prabhupada. He said, what could I do? It was my nature. One time when that happened, he even took Srila Prabhupada into a room and shut the door and spoke to him. Who knows what? But when we hear what he really feels the weight of, and that is the suffering of the conditioned souls, and how his godbrothers were not uniting despite whatever differences they had. They were not following the instructions to cooperate, to have an institution based not simply upon an acharya, but on a managerial council where it can be discussed threadbare and decide how to engage in the preaching. The only purpose for Krishna consciousness movement is preaching, and the purpose for preaching is to become Krishna conscious. When Srila Prabhupada was asked, what can we do to make you happy, Srila Prabhupada? And more than one time he said, develop your love for Krishna. That's what he wants to see all living entities reawaken. And that's why he felt anxiety in the last days of his life. Will my disciples seriously take advantage? Will they carry on? Even in his presence, he wrote one letter, you're fighting even in my presence? At least my godbrothers waited until the spiritual master left. He said, you give me such a headache, it's difficult to do my translating and my purports. And he wanted the burden of management to be taken from his shoulders. At one time he expressed, let me come to Vrindavan and simply write these Bhaktivedanta purports. Let me do my translation. You take the responsibility. So fast forwarding, anyone who takes upon their shoulders the headaches of managing and the headaches of sacrificing our life, our time, our money, our efforts in serving him. Highest service is sharing with others Krishna consciousness. He's so grateful, eternally grateful, and willing and able to give eternal gifts or mercy in return. Would you like to hear one other shorter poem? Had you ever heard that poem before? It's an amazing poem. Let's see, that was Krishna. How about Varaha Astika? I'm depending on my phone, and my phone is not always very dependable. Let's pray that it cooperates by the mercy of the Lord. Okay. Looks like it's going to. Yeah, if I were just to speak, I want to, any follower of Srila Prabhupada reflects some aspect of the multifaceted jewel that he was in his pure devotional service. We're all individuals and we all have certain strengths, certainly weaknesses, personally speaking. And even when we perfect our Krishna consciousness, we'll at best shine some particular aspect, but who could there is no second Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Nor will there be for the rest of this Kali Yuga. It's just to be in touch with him and to be in his shelter of this movement and to be in his service, through the service of his servants. Inconceivable. Sometimes it just goes right over our head how fortunate we are. But anyway, hearing these words, it really brings the focus that Prabhupada, how much he wanted to please his spiritual master, and he knew that Pleasing the spiritual master simply means spreading Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness. There's one other prayer here. It's called Viraha Astika. This was written on his disappearance day. So both appearance and disappearance. This first octet is called the Flood of Krishna Prema. He says, "O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffered to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this anniversary of separation, I'm utterly despondent. The ocean of mercy was previously held back by a dam, but Lord Nityananda personally cut a channel in it and thereby released the outpouring flood of pure ecstatic love of God." That's a quote from Lochan Das Thakur's song Nitai Guna Mani. Those devotees to whom the responsibility was given to continue spreading this flood of love somehow became overpowered by Maya and were thus reduced to simply performing ritualistic Hindu ceremonies for the benefit of the materialist. Lord Nityananda's inundation of prema was thus completely stopped by those known as caste Goswamis. But then you personally came, O Master, to open wide the floodgates once again. Again you engulfed everyone in the deluge of pure divine love, even such a low, wretched, fallen, and sinful soul as myself. On the strength of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's command, you sent all of your servants as spiritual masters going from door to door just to deliver the fallen souls. The devotees were enthusiastically preaching everywhere, from the oceans to the Himalaya mountains. But now that you've gone from our midst, everything today has become very dark. O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffered to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. Second octet. Merciful flood has been stopped. Just as Advaita Prabhu had prayed fervently and thus induced Sri Gauranga to descend, so did your father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, pray for you to incarnate. Due to Bhaktivinoda's eagerness, O Master, you came and proclaimed to everyone that India is the most holy land of the Lord's divine pastimes. One who's taken birth in this land of Bharata Bhumi should first make his own life successful and then work for the benefit of all other people. Adi Leela, CC 941. This is the most significant message of Lord Chaitanya, that you boldly preached everywhere. But now in your absence, O Master, everything has fallen into darkness. The overflowing ocean of your compassion has once again been dammed up. This makes me feel as if a spear of great misery has indeed pierced my heart. Without Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message being spread, there's only confusion and upheaval in the movement. Seeing this situation, all the Vaishnavas are also feeling overwhelmed with the pangs of your separation. The spirit souls have once again been captured by Maya and plunged into absolute darkness. Desperately searching for relief, they're simply perishing in a fathomless ocean of anxiety. O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. Third octet, practical chanting and preaching. You instructed everyone you met to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. You showed the example of continually reciting the Maha Mantra into their ears. You empowered everyone with the qualification to further distribute the holy name. But now, by the influence of Maya, there's only darkness on all sides. The souls who are truly attached to worshiping the Lord always sing and dance in joyful Sankirtan. Following in the footsteps of their spiritual master, they deliver the whole world. But those who have no such qualification perform nirjan bhajan, or so-called confidential worship in a solitary place. Thus acting whimsically, all of them actually remain absorbed in personal sense gratification. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-30, an ordinary soul should never imitate the activities of the Supreme Lord, even in his mind. According to these instructions in devotional service, the unqualified imitators are ruined. You preach utility is the principle. That is, one should act without attachment, and use anything that's deemed appropriate in the devotional service of the Lord. In such detached devotional service to Lord Krishna, there would be a temple established in every house. But now just the opposite situation is apparent everywhere. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. Fourth octet, the essential purport neglected. Everything regarding material prosperity as well as mystic perfection is fully present in your transcendental message. Quote, because the residents of Vraj have life, therefore they engage in preaching work. That's a verse from Bhaktisiddhanta's Dushtamana. Oh my mind, what kind of devotee are you? The resolute intelligence, Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi, explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary to Bhagavad Gita 241, is now spoiled, since your disciples have become ensnared in the bewildering noose of Maya. Those disciples who are as irresolute in performing devotional service according to your instructions have now divided your mission in many factions. It appears that the tigress of ambition for material name and fame has appeared and personally provoked this upheaval. The essential purport of your message obviously did not enter their ears. Oh, where will I get the strength to perform this Harinam Sankirtan? To chant the holy name of the Lord is the explicit command of my worshipful spiritual master. I could never honestly neglect that order. Your greatest acclaim is that you propagated the topmost religious culture. Anyone who accepts the holy name from you becomes spiritually qualified. If all those who attained this qualification were to go out and make disciples, then the miserable conditioned souls would all be delivered from this world of birth and death. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. Fifth octet, the disciples' empowerment is lost. The greatest mantra of all, consisting of 32 letters, is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People who are possessed by gross foolishness refuse to chant it. Your so-called disciple, the jackal named Ananta Vasudeva, disobeyed your final instructions to keep the mission united and thereby created a scandalous fiasco. The result of this philosophical deviation is evident to this day, as imitative Sahajias are being worshipped as gurus in your temples. Is there a single temple to be found where your instructions are still being followed? As it is said, Punar Musika Bhava, everyone has again become a mouse. The lion's food has been stolen away by the deceptive tricks of the jackal. Now caught in Maya's mighty clutches, everyone is reduced to wailing and weeping. O Master, if you are merciful to us once again, then even though we are trapped here on the shores of the ocean of death, we will finally behold a change for the better. Then once again we can blissfully remember the holy name of Krishna. And once again we will have firm faith in your Vaikuntha messages. Once again you will make us dance in the pure holy name of Krishna. Thus you will personally dispel all this confusion caused by Maya. O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. Sixth octet, the preaching mission is scattered. Continue dancing, singing, and performing Sankirtan, the association of devotees. C.C. Adi Leela 792. These words spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are especially nectarine. If we have complete faith in these instructions given by you, our spiritual master, then in the performance of Sankirtan, actual love for Krishna will be aroused in us. Without love of God, our tiny intelligence only becomes entangled in the network of Maya's delusions. Because no one actually attained prema, now there's been great upheaval in your mission. The whole world has become filled with impersonalists, and the Vaishnavas have given up the work of preaching that was entrusted unto them and simply gone off to perform solitary worship. The Vaishnavas are famous as Petit Pavan, deliverers of the fallen, but now this title has fallen into disgrace. Countless numbers of your disciples have been forced to leave your movement. At such an inauspicious time, O Master, what can be done to repair the damage that is done? The beautiful garden that you had so carefully planted is now parched and withered away. O Master, please awaken some good intelligence in this insignificant disciple of yours, so that my firm faith in your transcendental message may increase more and more. O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. 7th Octet, distributing the pure devotional process. The most magnanimous incarnation of the Lord is Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Distributing the process of attaining love of God by chanting the holy names of Krishna, he thus blessed the entire universe. O Master, you are the personification of the transcendental message of Lord Chaitanya. You are the distributor of that message to every town and village. You sent your devotees to preach in the faraway lands of the western countries, and you personally traveled all over India, even to the south. You preached the pure philosophy of Lord Gauranga in such a way that intelligent persons could understand, and you showed such great concern, O Master, in convincing all of your adversaries. Lord Gauranga used many tricks just to engage the conditioned souls in devotional service, and you have also understood how to use all those tricks perfectly well. You understood time, place, and circumstance, and utilized everything as a strategy for preaching. Although observing your activities with their very eyes, those who are blind like owls and other creatures of the night could not see your true purpose. What will the Baus and the Sahajyas and the other nonsense groups ever understand? And what will the sheep-like common people or dry logicians ever understand? O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. 8th Octet, if only you would come again. Lord Chaitanya's method of devotional service is not performed in solitude. You preach this again and again to your own devotees. Just as the Lord delivered Jagai and Madai out of his own causeless mercy, you explain to everyone that this same method of preaching work has to go on. The world is now filled up with many Jagais and Madais to deliver. Everyone is anxiously looking down the road, waiting for Chaitanya Nittai to come to their rescue. If at such a time as this, you were personally to return to this world and once again preach all about these things the way you always used to do. If there were enthusiastic preaching activities again taking place in every direction, then all the people as before would be stirred up in blissful excitement. Your profound shouting would cause the demons and atheists to flee, and your narrations of Lord Chaitanya's message would fill the hearts of the innocent souls. Again, the whole world would be excitedly bursting with good tidings. But as it is, in your absence now, there's nothing of value anywhere. O Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I'm utterly despondent. O Master, my heart is broken in your absence. This disciple named Abai has hereby revealed only a small token of his wretched agony of separation. So what the non-devotees don't understand, what even the neophyte devotees don't understand, that this sadness, this pain, this suffering is not something to be run away from. But when it truly manifests, not artificially, crying a few tears here and there, but when it actually is experienced by the mercy of the spiritual master, reawakening within our heart the desire to please Guru, Vaishnavas, and Krishna, then we will take seriously this mood of understanding that pain is what transforms into love for Krishna. The pain of separation from the Vaishnavas, that was the question given by Lord Chaitanya. What's the most painful thing in this world? And he answered, aside from separation from the Vaishnavas, I can think of no greater pain. Prabhupada in the purport, he gave 2 verses quoting that actually the greatest pain is when you don't worship Krishna and you don't become a devotee. He took it that way. You don't know devotees, you won't know devotional service. Your life is spoiled. So easy to lose the human form of life in this day and age. Prabhupada felt that urgency, the emergency, the overwhelming tsunami force that I have to use everything I can at all times in pleasing my spiritual master, in serving the Lord, helping those who don't know Krishna to become Krishna conscious, helping those who are trying to take Krishna conscious to be strengthened in their endeavors to become Krishna conscious, relishing and serving those who have become Krishna conscious. So anyway, it's something that I've meditated on. How can you not feel completely stupid, insignificant, basically worthless when you hear of the mood of the spiritual master? I'm often quoting Srila Prabhupada's words that one who understands the mood and service, takes up the mood and service of the spiritual master, he's truly blessed. But this mood, oh my God, you have to feel yourself fallen to be able to be given that mood. When Prabhupada cried, saying, please, I'm so rotten and useless, but I brought this to you for your pleasure, please accept it. He prostrated himself at the feet of Gauranga, Nityananda and Advaita and Shantipur. He prostrated himself at the feet of his spiritual master, asking that they use this useless instrument. I have no devotion, I have no knowledge, and yet I've been designated as Bhaktivedanta. If you will kindly give me your mercy, you can make that designation become true. My words, by your mercy, Krishna, can act in such a way to penetrate the hearts of the conditioned souls and reawaken them to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a gift, and we have to be given it to truly be able to give it. Up until that time, we can just avail ourselves as instruments, as blunt or as ineffective as we may be. We should try our best to follow the standards and instructions and services given to us in this society. If we do that, life is good. Life is auspicious. And I thank you for having allowed me to share some thoughts and words of Srila Prabhupada. As I will end, he was very happy with his disciples. He wanted our association in the last days of his manifest pastimes. He wanted all his disciples to come and sit there and simply chant and hear the Maha Mantra in his presence. That was one desire unfulfilled. It was a symptom of the oncoming chaos that would ensue shortly after he left, not properly understanding the instruction. You become guru. You become guru simply because of the pain felt that your spiritual master feels. Any other reason has a cheating effect upon yourself and those who take shelter of you. The spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he would preach so forcefully. One time he was preaching about Varnashram and the different orders of society. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The Brahmins are the spiritual masters of the society, topmost. And one person challengingly asked him, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm 5th class, servant of the other 4 classes." I'm going to read one last quote and end with that. He said, 2 quotes if I may. Following the footsteps of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinadapi Sunichena Tor, Iva Sahishna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari. We must always remember this verse. This is Srila Prabhupada's words. We must always remember this verse and be as tolerant as the tree as we execute the Krishna consciousness movement. Without this mentality, we cannot be successful. Material nature means dissension and disagreement, especially in this Kali Yuga. But for this Krishna consciousness movement, its success will depend on agreement, even though there are varieties of engagements. Now all my disciples must work combinedly and with cooperation to spread this Sankirtan movement. If you cannot work together, then my work is stopped up. Our society is like one big family, and our relationships should be based on love and trust. We must give up the fighting spirit and use our intelligence to push ahead. And to the person he was writing to, he said, you should accept help from your God brothers. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Prabhupada Nugas ki. Thank you for your tolerance. Thank you for allowing me. No breakfast as is announced, but time well spent, I hope. I'll stop, but does anybody want to throw any wood on the sacrificial fire?